Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon. I'm with the Kent Intermediate School District. I am one of the career readiness consultants, and we are excited to have you here, and especially Douglas Ayers. He's a registered nurse from Grand Valley State University, and I'm excited to hear your story today, Douglas, and have you share some information that might be really great for young people. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So this 30 minutes is going to go really fast, and I'm hoping to get some great information out of you. It's really your story. So we're going to start back to when you were a high school student, Douglas, and you were 16 or 17, and you're thinking about what do you want to be when you grow up? Did you always want to be a nurse? Kind of give us that early thinking and how you landed to where you are.
To be honest, I was the first and still am the first person in my family to go into the medical field. I guess, well, technically social sciences. My mother's a social worker, and that was a slight drive when I was younger, but really I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I just knew there wasn't a lot of male nurses, to be honest, and even less Hispanic male nurses. Mm-hmm. So when I heard that the stats was below 1% of Hispanic male nurses, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'll try it. They can't tell me no. So that was one of my drives.
I love that that was actually a motivating factor versus one saying, oh, I don't want to be a trailblazer, but you saw it as a challenge. You're like, I'm doing it. So good for you. So you heard those stats and they're still pretty dismal. You are definitely a rarity, one being a male, and like you said, Hispanic background. So did you figure that out in high school? Was it right after high school? Kind of tell us that timing then. What did you do then for the first steps?
It was actually in high school because I remember applying to my high school had a great opportunity. It was like you could get your CNA or certified nurse's assistant license, which means you're a licensed actual healthcare worker and you can work in a nursing home and such. And I applied to get into this class that would provide me with a certificate, but I actually was denied. I think it was because of my grades at the time. I was kind of still in this, I don't know, sporty kind of phase, where I wanted to be the stereotypical jock and not do well in school. But that was kind of my first red flag of saying education's important, and that's what's going to get you far in life. Not saying that sports aren't going to get you far in life, but for me, my best way to succeed was through education. And I saw that there was a gap in society, in our society that we live in, and I wanted to try to fill that gap with me. So that was kind of the first attempt I had at becoming a nurse. And I actually failed.
Yeah, so you got turned down. And that's great for young people to hear, that you had to have kind of that awakening for yourself, like, oh my gosh, I got to get my stuff together and start focusing on school.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of a big aha moment, some would say.
So you didn't get through that first class. So then how did you take the next step to get to where you want to go?
So instead of taking those classes, I filled them up with other healthcare kind of classes because we got to pick electives. And since I already got denied, and my kind of motive or drive was, all right, I'm gonna do it anyway. So I started educating myself about healthcare. Since I couldn't really ask any family members, I was really lost and I had to start from scratch. To be honest, in high school, I didn't even know what the roles of a nurse was. I mean, you see it on TV, like Grey's Anatomy and stuff. And I found out very quickly, just side note, is that Grey's Anatomy, a lot of that nurses do a lot of those things that you see the doctors doing. So it's really cool kind of watching those TV shows and saying, you know, that's me out there doing that.
Very cool. So you're like, I'm going to still take classes, but you didn't have a lot of role models in your life. So it was that inner strength, that inner focus, that inner desire that was motivating you. And so then what turning point was that? You took those through high school. So you took anatomy and physiology.
Yes.
And so what other classes might you have taken in high school that these young people can maybe consider doing?
So they did have like AP classes, or kind of, if you can get college credits, that's great. If you can't, it's not the end of the world. So I did opt to take only one AP class because I knew two would be too much for me at this time. I wasn't quite ready for it. So I just wanted to really getting to know myself and think, how can I, again, set myself up for success? So I did take AP psychology is one that you can take. I'm thinking anatomy and physiology is one. Actually, contrary to popular belief, physics actually helped me a lot. So I took that in high school, and it kind of gave me a different kind of thought process of thinking things, not just strictly medical. I also took exercise physiology, kind of different, just different basic things to touch in different healthcare fields and subjects.
Good for you. And I have heard that about physics. That's a very good class to take. I know in radiology, I had talked to radiologists. They said that taking that physics class was really, really key for them too.
Yeah.
So you graduate from high school. By this time, you're like, okay, I have my goal. You're working hard at your classes. Did you have a hard time figuring out where you're going to go to school? Did someone mentor you that way? How did you make those decisions?
No, well, my dad did go to U of M Flint, so he did want me to go to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and be go blue Wolverine. But I was kind of, again, in this rebellious phase. Like, if you tell me to do something, I'm gonna do the exact opposite. So I did apply to Michigan State's nursing program. So that was my first option. I was so set on becoming a Spartan, getting into Michigan State, and joining their nursing program right off the bat. And again, I kind of got a big stop sign in my face saying, "You're not ready for this right now." And those hurt. Those rejections, those hurt. They make you feel like you're not adequate enough to get in. It makes you feel like you're missing something. So for anyone who gets rejections, they know that when you have your dream position of where you think you're going to be, and you hit that stop or rejection letter, it's hard, but it's good. It hurts at the time, but looking back at those times where it hurt, I grew from it.
That's so awesome to hear you sharing this, Douglas. I think young people need to hear that just because you hit a no doesn't mean you stop your dream. You just find a different way to get there. So you did not get accepted into Michigan State, or specifically the nursing program, or both?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I still think about, was it because I put nursing as my discipline as a freshman and I didn't have the GPA or the ACT score at the time? Or I think about if I would have went like I'm not sure what it's called, but
Non-traditional?
Yes, non-traditional,
Okay.
or some kind of like not picking my discipline or degree yet. Then I could have got in, but I didn't get into the nursing program, and they offered me to put me on a wait list, but I was already like, no, you guys didn't take me the first time. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I know I'm great, and I'm gonna take my greatness elsewhere if you guys don't want it.
But I think you give a good strategy that if your grades aren't super competitive to what the nursing programs need to be, to maybe leave that major selection a little bit vague in the beginning till you get accepted into the college, and then you kind of apply for what you want. Even though some schools have what's called a direct admit, that's going to be a different strategy. Yeah. But like at Michigan State, that might have, like you said, been helpful to get in, get good grades, and then prove yourself.
Yes, so that I do think, and maybe in like a different life, that's what I did. I didn't put nursing down at the time. I didn't have the GPA I wanted quite yet. And I mean, college is a whole different level where you have to like, it's just a different environment. But I think if I would have said non-traditional, like you said, then I think I would have been accepted, I believe. And then I could have switched off and went into a nursing program type deal from there and build myself up.
So what college did you end up landing in?
Here, go Lakers, Grand Valley State University.
Yep. And so they let you in, you're like, okay, I'm doing this, and you worked your butt off, and it is pretty competitive, isn't it? What would you like to say to students about the competitiveness of the nursing program?
So it's very competitive, and that is so daunting. And it's hard because I feel like there's a lot of great people who would be great nurses out there who they get rejected once or twice and they stop and they change career paths, and that's hard. It's hard for me to see that. But I mean, so when I didn't get accepted right away, such as the direct admit route. If you have a high enough GPA, a built up enough resume or kind of portfolio and everything, and you're set, you were prepared in high school for this, then you're good to go, and you can go the direct admission route and you'll get into the program automatically. for me, I was still traditional. And I had to apply to the program after a year and a half of taking college classes and proving that I can keep my GPA up in college, basically,
Yeah.
and keep up with the curriculum.
Well, they're probably thrilled to have you, especially being a male in a non-traditional. I think that a lot of programs are probably interested in diversifying their classes of nursing, I would think.
Yeah. Well,
That's great.
I did get rejected again.
Oh, another rejection?
I know.
Man,
That
good for
was
you.
so
I'm like
hard.
cheering you on right now. I'm sure the students are too, that you just keep going.
It was so hard. I mean, just like working my butt off, like you said, and then the application process has changed quite a bit to where they're allowing more people to have interviews. But when I graduated or when I applied to the program, it was strictly GPA, strictly a writing essay that you had to do, and that was it, and your name. So they knew nothing about you. It was strictly numbers.
Just strictly scores. But like I said, ideally, I think it is changing a little bit out there as far as a little more holistic, looking, like
Yeah.
you say, interview, community service, other things. But good to keep in mind. And young people, that's something important to look at the nursing programs that you're considering. How do they evaluate? So for you, you got rejected again, though. And how did you pick yourself up that time after some, like, this is like the third big strike?
I know. It was honestly the support of my mentors that I created and surrounded myself with. So I knew that I wasn't, like how I said, I was in that kind of different phase in high school. I needed help to transition myself to become diligent, disciplined, hardworking, and everything, really focused on what I want and being able to get to my goal. So I surrounded myself with mentors. One big thing I did was join, it's like a Hispanic group at Grand Valley, made to increase Hispanic retention students or increase retention. And that was huge for me to kind of have support of people who looked like me, who talked like me, kind of came from the same families and cultures as me. And we made jokes that maybe like only my brothers would have understood, but they were understanding too because they're in the same situation. I met lots of different professors. Like I met a history professor who I sat down with and had lunch once a month. And that was just through this organization that I joined, just looking to be involved in the school. So that was huge, being involved.
And that's something just as an encouragement is to young people, if you're, man, feeling like, man, I need the extra support to really get through this, because maybe you're the first one in your family going off to college or, you know, something like that too. Douglas, are you familiar with any other mentorship type programs that students in high school could tap into if they can't wait till college to tap in, which of course we encourage them to do, but do you know anything else that's going on in your Hispanic community for mentorship?
I know there is here in Grand Rapids. So I'm originally from the Ann Arbor area. So I did come out here to Grand Rapids, and I do know they have a great Hispanic, the West Chamber of Commerce, I want to say, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I think that's out on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. But they have a great community outreach program. Actually, as a nursing student, I went there and kind of spoke just about health. We did a little health presentation, and we had like translators there and everything. So that is a kind of space that's really trying to bring community outreach to the Hispanic community.
Well, I think that's great. I appreciate you being here today too. And I know there's a lot of young people on this Zoom call that are really excited already. It was in the chat that they're so excited to see a Hispanic nurse. That's something that they don't see a lot. So they're already very grateful that you're here. So mentorship was important. So you end up graduating. So had you done any job shadows along the way? And I know you said in high school you really weren't sure of what a nurse really did. So when did you start to get to the meat of it and go, man, this is for me. This was a good choice. And do you regret it? Have any changes? Do it all over again?
I would do it all over again, to be honest. To get to this point where I am right now, I would do it all over again. I would take the pain of rejection again. I would take the late night studying in the library until it closed, passing up parties and stuff on the weekend to make sure I'm good for an exam. I would do all of that over again and make those sacrifices. I would say that one point where I felt like I was really starting to make a change was it's what's nice about healthcare is you can kind of climb yourself up. You can say, so I started off without my CNA license. I didn't get it from high school. So I just started working in a nursing home more as just like um, I think it was a resident assistant is what they call it. So unlicensed at the time. But that was really getting my foot or feet wet in healthcare and caring for people and seeing what good care, like what care, good, providing good care, what that can do to somebody. That's just huge. Just being nice to somebody and listening to them, that's something that seems so small, but can change someone's day if they're stuck in a hospital, if they're stuck in a nursing home. Just being able to have like real conversations with a human being, I feel like that is huge with nursing. That's what I felt, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm just talking to this person, listening to them, and I can see them lighting up, talking about their past, talking about their life and everything. And I felt I learned from every single patient I have, and I like that as well. So.
Well, I hear that you, first of all, just have a great attitude in general. And so they were probably so thrilled to have you there. And again, that you took it as such a learning experience. Every patient that you interacted with, you were gleaning from, helping you be a better person, a better nurse. And I'm just encouraging the young people through the chat that it's such a great way to test out, like, is this something I want to do? So those resident assistant positions, you just have to be 18. And as he said, it's not licensed. So even if you want to do an entry level in the hospitals to do like nutrition tech or environmental services, like just get yourself in there, you guys, like start to test it out like Douglas was just sharing. So now you did that while you were in college then, the resident assistant, or was that once you graduated, or that was probably during?
Yes, I started that like summer, or it was like second semester of college.
Okay.
I really noticed that, I mean, people around me were doing it too. People around me had already had their license certificate and everything. So I did feel like I had to kind of play catch up a little bit. But it was okay. I mean, I was able to make it through.
So we actually have about 10 minutes left. It goes so fast. So I'd like to have you share a little bit about some of your favorite things about being a nurse. And then I do want to get to what you actually do at a college, at a higher education setting. But what were some of the things that you love about being a nurse?
So I chose the psychiatric route. I have a lot of psychiatric, I wouldn't say disorders, but maybe some mental illness in my family that I've cared for and dealt with. So it wasn't kind of a new field for me, and it was somewhere where I felt comfortable. And being able to kind of care for a patient as if they were my family member that was there in the bed, or kind of talking to me and maybe having some symptoms or something. But that was huge to me, is being able to kind of say, okay, like this could be my loved one sitting right here, and this is someone else's loved one sitting right here. So I need to treat them as such, as someone's dad, as someone's son, as someone's brother, as someone's husband, as someone's wife. Just really, really accepting and being able to, I feel like touch the human soul kind of as a nurse, and being able to feel that humanity. And I do still work at Pine Rest part-time because of course I do have this university job. Yes.
So just to plug out for Pine Rest, they have an entry-level position, I believe, called a psychiatric tech or psychiatric aid. Tell me about that, so young people could know an entry-level position there.
Absolutely, and they are always looking, to be honest. It's a big facility, it's huge, and there's kind of a lot of people who go to school, come back, so they're open and flexible, they'll work with you, but that is a position where you'll be the eyes and ears of the nurse, basically. So you're out on the floor a little more often than the nurse who may be getting medications or charting on patients. You're out actually dealing with the patients and hanging out in the milieu, or the kind of community or environment. So you're out there, you're taking care of their needs, and it's just a great way to, again, if you're not so in the medical side of things, and maybe you want to try a little more psychiatric, just a different world maybe of nursing or healthcare. That's one where it's maybe not so much blood maybe, or so much, I don't know, other more
Yeah,
med.
some of those bodily fluids, you don't have to deal with
Yes.
that quite as
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I didn't want to go there, but yes, bodily fluids. So psychiatric, it's a little more behavioral is what you'll see. Um, but they teach you a lot at Pine Rest. So you'll learn how to speak and verbally de-escalate. And that's just a huge tool that a lot of great psych techs naturally will pick up. And then once they feel that natural kind of skill or that being able to verbally de-escalate somebody, it's just a great non-medication way to talk to somebody and care for them.
And I believe you have to be 18 to be a psych tech. Is that true?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe 18.
Yeah. And I just to plug, we probably will be having we're going to be having a talk-in tour at Pine Rest. We've done them the last couple of springs. So you guys, I'll send a link out to that. I'm trying to remember if I confirmed that with them, but there'll be another opportunity to maybe hear more about those jobs. But I encourage you to go to Pine Rest website and go to the careers, the jobs section, and you can start to read what kind of qualifications are needed for that. But it is a great entry-level position, but I do believe you have to be 18. So a lot of young people wouldn't think that being a nurse at a college level is even a job. So tell us, what does that even mean to be a registered nurse at a university?
So I got very blessed with this position that I'm in. I was able to I had this part-time kind of internship job after graduation because you have to pass your boards after you graduate. So this was kind of this limbo stage of graduation and boards. And I applied to this random kind of position, like you were talking about, the mid-level position that you can just see, and maybe you'll just throw your application on there, see what happens. So that's what happened. That's what my case was. And I got accepted for the position. And really, the mentality I had was the mentality I kind of had was treat every job like it's just give it 100%, all your effort. And I was able to actually get offered a full-time position just because the supervisor here, she liked my work ethic, I guess. And she hired me, and now I work here full-time. And I stepped away from the bedside full-time. And now I'm actually working with robotics, something that I would never have seen myself doing. I'm programming these robots who are real lifelike humans. Like they have heartbeats, they have lung sounds, pulses throughout their body. You're able to put catheters inside them, IVs, they're able to bleed, speak to you. So I never thought that in high school I would have got to a point where I'm in a university basically being part of building robots and helping them manipulate and pretend to be a pretend patient is what they are. So these are mannequins that are pretend patients that nursing students can come in and they can practice their skills without actually hurting a patient. So if we can make a patient go into cardiac arrest or have a heart attack, and that's something students may not see in clinical or in their hospital setting, but we can simulate it and mock it so then they can have that reaction, have that real life kind of adrenaline pumping through their body. What are you going to do in the heat of the moment type deal?
I've taken students on every year, twice a year, I've got to tour. It's called the Simulation Lab, you guys, at Grand Valley State University. So Douglas is on that team with the Simulation Lab. So I do encourage you to Google that and check it out, because I know that kind of, to me, is one even way that Grand Valley sets itself apart from some of the other educational institutions is the quality of your simulation lab, and that those sessions get recorded and you guys as team really debrief with each other. So tell us just a little bit more about the value of a sim lab, and even give a plug why Grand Valley should be considered for them as they look at colleges.
You're absolutely right that Grand Valley is kind of known for having a great simulation center and such a robust facility. And my plug would be that we're only growing. So in May, next year, 2021, we're redoing our whole third floor, which is our simulation center, and it's tripling in size. So we're going from 5 patient rooms to 18 patient rooms. And that's just in this simulation lab for the mannequins. They have a whole nother side of simulation that's standardized patients. But I'm more of the robotics type. I do, so it's fun. I mean, it's my hobbies kind of played into it, which got me into, like I played a little video games in high school, And those video games, you'd be surprised how much they've helped me dealing with robotics and troubleshooting. But we have great facilities here, state of the art. You're able to be recorded, and then your professor is watching these recordings, and then they sit down with you and tell you what you did well, maybe stuff you could improve on. So it's just a great way to experience it, and then right after that experience, you get to talk about it and learn from it.
It's very cool. And it sounds like you're keeping your patient bedside at Pine Rest still. Did you say you still have that job?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I want you to be thinking about your word of wisdom here. We're approaching our last couple of minutes, but I know that students always like to know. Oh, someone's got to mute themselves. I have to look at that. But Donnell, if you could just mute that. Liz, could you turn off your mic, please? Give a word of wisdom here in a minute, but I know students like to hear like maybe something negative. Like, is there something you would do over, a lesson you learned from, anything like that?
One thing, a negative thing would be, don't be afraid to kind of cut people off maybe that are holding you back. I kind of learned that is, I mean, it seemed great at the time and they just want to have fun, and they were, at a time in my life, they were my best friends. But then realizing that we kind of have different paths and life will take you different ways. And just being able to say goodbye for now. I mean, you may not be able to hang out as much as you used to and stuff, but being able to cut off kind of people who maybe are draining your energy a little bit.
Again, I hear your attitude as just being one of those assets you have. And obviously, I'll give Douglas a plug. His boss is the one that encouraged him to do this, and she just thinks he's so fantastic. So I agree. I think you've been such a great role model today, Douglas. I'm going to share my screen to give the students a few resources. If you could be thinking about that, that's great advice right there, but kind of a final word of wisdom. And then we're going to finish up right on time. But I have mentioned this resource before. Road Trip Nation, again, is an opportunity for you guys to watch some more little videos like this of people talking about their career. I think it's just a great career exploration website. There is a website for the American Nurses Association. It's just a great website to go to and just kind of peruse around. There's scholarship applications on there. There's different job postings that you can kind of scan to get some ideas. It's just a great kind of site if you're thinking about being a nurse, just to mess around with a little bit. Again, for the nuts and bolts of how much money nurses make and what a typical day is like and some of the different tasks and additional resources, I really encourage you to go to onetonline.org. It's a great resource. And Douglas, I want to confirm with you, is it okay that I provide your email address if anyone has a follow-up question? I forgot to confirm that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
I did type it, but I need to get permission before I change to that next slide. So if you do have some follow-up questions, Douglas has been very generous to offer that email to you right here. So it's ayersdo@gvsu.edu, and I'll flash that back up in a minute. Again, our website is careerreadiness.kenisd.org. And we'll have all the career chats. We have more that'll be coming after the series, but also some other events. So it's always just a good place to check out. So again, I'll come back to that, you guys, if you need his email. So it's just been great having you. Again, it's gone really fast, but any final word of wisdom as we let the students go?
Final words of wisdom would be, there's many ways up the mountain. That's kind of a quote that stuck with me, especially from all the rejections. If one way doesn't work, if there's a tree in the way, water flooded it, try a different way. There's many different ways to get to where you want to be.
If any of you students want to put something in the chat, just so Douglas can just hear how that's impacted you today, that'd be great. I'm sure he'd love to see those kind of comments. I do have the students that are part of the immersion program, Douglas, do a reflection after these career chats, so I'll share some of their feedback, but just a big thumbs up. Gold information, Douglas, just gold. So thank you for being our role model today. I'm gonna stop recording right here. So thank you, everybody. Have a good day.